Hey everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic back once again, and this time we're going to talk about Hell in a Cell 2022. Lots of big questions heading into this pay-per-view. What happened to all the SmackDown matches? Will Cody Rhodes' match even go ahead? And what is the night going to look like overall? We'll answer all of these over the course of this very video. So without any further ado, let's crack right on, because this is what happened at WWE Hell in a Cell 2022. Let's go. We start things off with the Raw Women's Championship match, with Bianca Belair defending in a triple threat against both Becky Lynch and Asuka. It's an even start between all three women, but Bianca goes for an early KOD, but Asuka just manages to slip out, and then Becky Lynch takes control of the match. She gets several near falls on the champ, who then goes for another KOD attempt, but Becky manages to slip out of that, and then Bianca hits a nice delayed vertical suplex with some jogging in the middle of it. You big show-off. Becky uses Bianca's hair to try and gain an advantage, but Bianca reverses momentum and hits a nice handspring moonsault onto both opponents, but it's only good enough for two. Asuka, who until this point hasn't really had much offense to speak of at all, suddenly comes alive with code breakers for everybody and then a unique double ankle lock. Later, Becky gets the disarmer locked in, but Bianca slowly stands up and lifts her onto her shoulders to a big reaction from the crowd. Becky does connect with the manhandle slam, but Asuka just breaks it up on the stroke of three. The champ is then knocked to the floor and the other two exchange roll-up attempts, and then Asuka suddenly gets the Asuka lock locked in. Becky tries that Bret Hart reversal, kicking off the turnbuckles to try and roll up her opponent, but it doesn't work. Asuka's still got it locked in until Bianca jumps off the top to sort of break it up. I don't know if she actually made contact, but Asuka let go of the submission, so I guess it worked. Becky again hits the manhandle slam, this time on Asuka, but Bianca throws Becky out of the ring and steals a pinfall to retain her championship. And needless to say, guys, Becky Lynch is fuming. The next match is the 2-on-1 handicap match between MVP and Omos, and of course, Bobby Lashley. MVP starts the match off as the legal man, actually, but then predictably tags out to Omos when he realizes, I've actually got to face Bobby Lashley. But MVP does tag in occasionally, usually when Lashley is down, but then he'll use a cheap tactic or an eye rake or something and tag back out to Omos before any damage can be done. He does hit a Yakuza kick on Lashley at one point, sending Big Bob to the outside, where Omos tackles him clean through the Timekeeper's barricade into that Timekeeper's area, and Lashley almost gets counted out, but makes it back in just before 10. Back in the ring, Lashley gets a spear on MVP, but almost breaks up the pinfall, and then just at the wrong time, Cedric Alexander tries to get involved on behalf of MVP and Omos. Of course, they don't want his help. They even told him this before the match backstage, but he didn't listen. What a silly boy. Omos is distracted by this and actually throws Cedric out of the ring, but then turns around straight into another spear from Lashley, which sends Omos under the bottom rope. This leaves MVP alone in the ring with Lashley. He slaps on the hurt lock and MVP submits. Bobby Lashley wins the 2-on-1 handicap match, and then curiously afterwards celebrates with a replica WWE championship from someone in the crowd, seemingly saying, yeah, I'm going to go for the belt again, so I guess that's fair enough. But it was an interesting one because he made the belt motion a few times while celebrating before actually taking the replica belt from the fan. And commentary kind of ignored it, but then when he grabbed the belt from the crowd, they obviously couldn't ignore it anymore and went, he wants the belt, does he? So I don't know if that was part of the plan or whether Lashley just decided to do a bit of improv, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. The next match is deeply personal because it's Kevin Owens taking on his nemesis, Ezekiel, or, as Owens seems to think, Elias. There's an interesting start to this match, actually, as Owens charges at Ezekiel and gets kneed straight in the face. Ezekiel heads up top, huge elbow drop, but it only gets 2. That would have been a very shocking result, but it had me convinced for a second. The fight spills to the outside, and Ezekiel takes a nasty shot into the ring post, which seems to bust him open legitimately, but thankfully, he's not bleeding too much. Owens dominates for a while, but the Swanton gets knees, and Ezekiel fires up. He avoids a stunner, but then the pop-up powerbomb gets 2 for Kev. At this point, Owens really starts to ramp up the trash talk, shouting and screaming that Ezekiel is in fact Elias. He goes for the stunner, but it gets counted into a roll-up, but it's only good enough for 2 for Ezekiel. Ezekiel heads back up top and gets crotched on the top rope, and that's kind of the turning point in this match. Owens hits a few super kicks, then a cannonball in the corner, and a stunner lays out Ezekiel for the 3 count. It's a big, clean, decisive win for Kevin Owens, who reiterates as the referee makes the final pinfall that his opponent is in fact Elias. Curious indeed, Kev. The next match is the mixed 6-person tag team match between the Judgement Day, Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley, against the babyface team of AJ Styles, Finn Bálor, and Liv Morgan. There's a big argument to start this match with lots of shouting before a big old brawl. Nice teamwork from the face team as AJ boosts Liv into a head scissors on Rhea Ripley, but the heels take control for the majority of this match, it has to be said. At least until Bálor gets the hot tag to AJ, who runs wild and hits the phenomenal forearm on Edge, but Damian Priest drags AJ out of the subsequent pinfall attempt. The teams both make tags to Liv and Rhea, who get a couple of near falls on each other. Rhea goes for the Riptide, but Liv reverses, and again it all breaks down into a big brawl. We also get dives from all of the faces onto all of the heels on the outside. Whee! Bálor goes for the coup de grace, but Rhea shakes the ropes and he falls down. AJ jumps back in with the phenomenal forearm on Priest, but Edge looks for a spear on Bálor, who reverses it into a roll-up, but it's only good enough for 2. The action really picking up by this point. Bálor again looks for the coup de grace, but Rhea stands in his way, blocking the route to Edge. Liv Morgan jumps on Rhea's back and takes her out, but by this point Edge has recovered enough to avoid Bálor and nail the spear to pick up the win for his evil team. The next match is the no DQ match between Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. This one begins with a brawl up and down the ramp, then they go down to the announce table area and Corbin shoves Moss clean over it, but Moss throws Michael Cole's chair right back in Corbin's face, and for the rest of the match Michael Cole has to just sort of watch it, standing up with his arms folded, looking decidedly unimpressed. Back in the ring, Corbin uses a steel chair but then gets dropped toe-holdered into it face first. He regains control of the match and wedges another chair in between the turnbuckles, but then gets sent into it himself and then takes a DDT onto the chair, but he manages to kick out at 2. They head back outside and Corbin puts a chair around Moss's neck and throws him into the announce table. He then brings the ring steps into the ring and puts them in the corner, but Moss gains control of the match once again and hits a fallaway slam on Corbin, sending him into those steps. Moss then hits his finisher, the punchline, but he doesn't go for the win because instead he wants revenge. Moss Pillmanizes Corbin's neck just as Corbin did to him on Raw, using the steel chair and the set of ring steps. And with that, Moss makes the cover and wins the match as Corbin is checked on by officials and stretchered to the back. Moss doesn't care. He's like, high five guys. He's high-fiving the fans in the front row. He's celebrating, and Corbin is being taken away. And nobody really seems to care that much. He might be seriously hurt, everybody. The next match is Theory defending his United States title against hometown boy Mustafa Ali with some special Chicago Bulls themed ring attire. Very fetching. Ali starts off hot, so Theory keeps bailing to the outside and getting heat from the crowd, but eventually he gains control of the match after knocking Ali off the top rope all the way down to the floor. They go back and forth until Theory hits a Spanish fly, springing up to the top rope in order to deliver the move, but it's only good enough for 2, and then Ali regains control with a nice tornado DDT. Theory goes for his finisher, but Ali counters into an STF, but Theory just about makes the bottom rope. Ali looks for the 450 from the top, but Theory moves and he crashes and burns on the canvas. Theory then takes out the knee with a vicious chop block and hits A-Town down, and that's good enough to retain his United States Championship. It was a close back and forth match, but in the end, Theory gets the clean win. And finally, the main event, the match we weren't even sure was going to go ahead, much less what it would even look like, the Hell in a Cell match between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Rollins comes out first wearing the Dusty Rhodes polka dots. Major disrespect from Seth Rollins there, but then Cody comes out and things get a lot more serious. When he removes his ring jacket, you can see the damage to his torn pectoral muscle. There's a lot of bruising and it's pretty uncomfortable. Early on, it becomes apparent that not only is this match going to take place, but it's not going to be a shortened version or a big angle to disguise Cody's injury. No, he is wrestling this match fully and properly, and yeah, it's painful even just watching it. But somehow, Cody does manage to get a great main event out of his body. I don't quite understand how he did it, but anyway, I'll just recap what happened. Cody hits a disaster kick and a Cody cutter early on, but he's wincing with every impact. He slaps on the figure 4, but Seth drags himself to the apron, reaches down and grabs a kendo stick to fight Cody off, and he's hitting him in the chest and the arm, the location of that huge bruise. He even sticks the point of the kendo stick directly onto the bruising, and yeah, it makes you wince. Seth takes control and puts on Cody's jacket and dances about. He then gets a custom weight belt with polka dots on it and whips Cody with it over and over. Seth puts Cody on a table and goes for the big frog splash off the top, but Cody moves and Seth crashes through. Cody then thinks about using the polka dot belt, but thinks no, screw that, and throws it away, and then fetches a bull rope from under the ring. He ties one into himself and challenges Seth to put the other end on his wrist, which Seth does, and they have a mini bull rope match for a little while. This section of the match ends when Cody hits a cowbell shot to Seth's head, but only gets 2. Seth then sets a table up in the corner of the ring, but Cody hits Crossroads, but Rollins kicks out. There's an even bigger kick out for Cody though, after Seth buckle bombs him through that table in the corner, but again, it's not enough to end the match. There were a lot of big kickouts in this one. Seth gets a sledgehammer, but Cody manages to kick it away, so Seth goes for the pedigree, but then Cody reverses into a pedigree of his own, but Seth kicks out of that. A little bit later on, Seth manages to hit the stomp, but it's another big kick out for Cody, so Rollins goes for another stomp, but Cody moves, goes for the crossroads, but Seth reverses and hits a crossroads of his own, but Cody rolls through back to his feet and hits a crossroads of his own, and both men are down. They fight over the sledgehammer and Cody wins the little battle, but he drops it. He's too weak. Seth goes for the sledgehammer, but Cody grabs him and hits one crossroads, then another, and then grabs that sledgehammer finally, and a big shot from the hammer ends the match. 1, 2, 3, and somehow Cody Rhodes well, never mind that. Somehow he wins the match. Somehow he has the match, and it's a full, well-developed match. It's a big main event Hell in a Cell bout. And yeah, somehow he did it. So credit to him and to Seth Rollins as well, of course, for what was a dramatic ending to the show. What did you think of it? And what did you think of all the matches? Leave your thoughts and opinions in that comments section down below. And hey, thanks very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic. Thank you for joining me. Thanks to Owen and Luke for editing this very video that you are watching as well. And yeah, have a good night. Stay safe out there. And I'll see you very soon.